Today I'm going to talk about biological rhythms. Biological rhythm. That's a very interesting area in animal behavior. So in this lecture, I'm going to talk to you what is meant by biological rhythms. And I'll also tell you about the commonly observed biological rhythms and the advantages of biological rhythms. And finally, I'll tell you about
recording in progress.
Finally, I'll tell you about bird migration. Very interesting biological rhythm, right? So, what are biological rhythms? If you look at this diagram, the upper diagram, now this first part of this diagram is that it is during the daytime, and the other part is that it is during the night time. So during the daytime, we are awake, like you and I are now. We are awake. But as the night approaches, then we feel sleepy and we sleep. Again, tomorrow morning, when the sun rises, we wake up, and as the sun sets in the evening, then again we feel sleepy, and at night we sleep. And that continues. It's a kind of a cyclic event. Now we should see this second one, the lower diagram. Now I'm showing you the distribution of fish and some copepods. It's a small crustacean, it's a plankton living in the ocean. The distribution of fish and the copepods during the daytime and also at the night. What you see is that at night, it is now this is a 24-hour cycle. At night, you can see that the copepods are distributed at the surface, near the surface of the sea, but as during the daytime, when there is light, now they gradually move into deeper areas in the sea. Again, as the night approaches, they come to the surface. When you consider the fish during the daytime, they are mostly distributed during the daytime in the surface of the sea, near the surface of the sea, but at night they migrate to deeper areas, into darker areas. Right? This is again a cyclic event. Why they do this? It's already been explained in this small, box in here. You can identify. You can read it later, right? So likewise, there are so many cyclical events that animals, also the plants, show. But in this lecture series, we are mostly concerned about animals. Therefore, I'm not going to talk about the cyclical events that take place in plants, right? Now, when you consider the animals, now there are so many cyclical events, right? So, for example, like I already explained, sleep-awake cycles in humans, also other vertebrates, higher vertebrates. Then annual migration of birds. Annually, they migrate to other countries in the world. And then the menstrual cycle, it's a cyclic event. And again, this one, the vertical migration of zooplankton, etc. All these things are rhythmic, periodic, cyclical events. Right? Now, as you see, all these rhythmic events, these cyclical events are linked to environmental changes. Now, for example, when it is daytime, we are awake. When it is nighttime, when there is no light, then we go to sleep. Again, when it is daytime, we are awake, and at night, we go to sleep. So The environmental conditions are always changing, so animal behavior is synchronized to all these environmental changes. Therefore, many of these rhythms, the biorhythms or biological rhythms, are linked to cyclical environmental changes, right? But you got to understand that menstrual rhythm, it is not related to environmental changes. It's something different. But it's again a cyclical event. I'll tell you the reason later, right? Therefore, based on all these things, we can define a biological rhythm or biorhythm. A biological rhythm or rhythms are periodic biological fluctuations in an organism, in an animal, that occur in response to periodic changes in the outside environment. In the outside environment, biological rhythms are periodic. Periodic කියලා කියන්නේ නැවත සිදුවෙන. Periodic table කියලා අහලා තියෙනනේ අවස්ථා වගේ. Periodic කියලා කියන්නේ නැවත සිදුවෙන. Biological rhythms are periodic biological fluctuations in an organism that occur. How it occurs? They occur in response to periodic changes in the outside environment. So that is how we define the biological rhythms. Now, let us very briefly understand how these biological rhythms work in higher animals like us. Now, in our case, the biological rhythms are strictly linked into an internal timing mechanism. We have an internal clock, right? Now you see, I am showing my wristwatch. Now it is a timing mechanism. So likewise, inside my brain, there is a timing mechanism. And that timing mechanism is what you call the biological clock, right? So our behaviors are synchronized with that biological clock, right? Biological clock. So how does it work? You see, when there is light, for example, right, our eyes receive the light stimuli, and then the nerve impulses are transmitted to the brain, right? So then, now there is a center called suprachiasmatic nucleus, simply known as the SCN. That is really the biological clock. That is where the biological clock is, right? So the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN, is stimulated. Now this place, SCN, is connected to the pituitary gland, and also it is connected to the autonomous nervous system. Now, as a result of this connection, when the SCN is stimulated, the pituitary gland begins to secrete hormones. At the same time, the autonomic nervous system is stimulated. As a result of these stimulations and hormone productions, so many different types of cyclical events take place. So therefore, you will understand our internal timing mechanism is basically controlled by this outside factor, the light. Not only that, the timing mechanism stimulates by the outside temperature as well. That's how it works, right? So this timing mechanism, it regulates, your daily patterns like sleep, wakefulness, heartbeat, blood pressure, and your alertness, etc. Okay, that is how the biological rhythms work in higher animals like us. Birds also have a biological clock, a timing mechanism. Each animal, even the lower animals, they also have their own timing mechanism. Now, as an example, when you consider the Plasmodium parasite, right? what does this Plasmodium parasite cause in human? Can anyone of you tell me? It causes the disease, what you call the malaria, right? Now this malaria parasite, it rests in our bloodstream, right? Now at night, they can be mostly seen near the peripheral bloodstream, that is actually near the skin. So the mosquito, the vector that transmits the parasite from a sick person to another person, sucks blood at night. So the malaria parasite's behavior is timed with the behavior of the mosquito. This way, the parasite can be successfully transmitted from one person to another person. So that is how these things work. So even the lower animals, right? Even the lower animals have their own biological timing mechanisms. Then I'll tell you the commonly observed biological timing mechanisms, right? There are three biological rhythms. They are known as the circadian or daily rhythms, circadian rhythms. Now I have given you the etymology of circadian rhythm. Etymology kiyala kiyana yam kisi vacaneka moolarambaya. Now it has a Latin origin according to this Latin understandings. Circa. Circadius කියන හැදිලා තියෙන්නේ. Circa කියලා කියන්නේ around. Circle කියලා කියන්නේ round. ඒකත් ඔය circle කියලා වචනේත් ඔය Latin origin එකක් තියෙන්නේ. Dies කියලා කියන්නේ day. එතකොට around the day. Circadian කියලා කියන්නේ ඒ අනුව දවසක් තුල සිදුවෙන කියන එක. Circadian rhythms. So rhythmic cycles that occur within a period of 24 hours. Now there are three types. Diurnal rhythms, where the animals become active by day. For example, us, the birds. But the owls, basso, they have a nocturnal rhythm. They are active by night. Then there is another rhythm, crepuscular rhythms. So now, for example, the leopards, they start searching for prey animals in the morning and in the afternoon, dusk and dawn. Dawn and dusk. Dawn කියලා කියන්නේ හිරු දාවත් එක්කලම, dusk කියලා කියන්නේ හිරු බැස යාමත් එක්කලා. They become active. When you consider the bees, now they also have a crepuscular rhythm where the bees start searching for flowers in the morning, early mornings, and in late afternoons. So they are crepuscular rhythms. So only one cyclic event occurs within a 24-hour cycle. Then the other one is what you call the infradian rhythms. Infradians. මේ සිංහල වචන නම් අහන්න එපා. ඔයගොල්ලෝ කැමති නම් සිංහල වචන හොයාගන්න, but please don't ask about the singular meanings for these words, right? So the infradian rhythms are the cyclic events that take more than 24 hours to complete. Now, for example, the menstrual cycle. It is an infradian rhythm, right? Now, the annual migration of birds. Again, it's an infradian rhythm. It's also known as an annual rhythm because in order to complete the cycle, it takes 1 year. Annual rhythm, right? Then the breeding. For example, the breeding seasons in dogs, right? Dogs, like us, do not breed throughout the year. Cats also, right? They have a kind of a breeding season. Every year, as far as I know, the birds have 2 breeding seasons a year, right? So in order to complete one breeding cycle, it takes more than 1 day. So they are infradian rhythms. The third type, the major category, is what you call the ultradian rhythms. Ultradian. So there are so many cyclical events, biological biorhythms, that occur within a single day. Right? Now, for example, your appetite. You eat in the morning, again you eat at noon, and then you again eat at night. එතකොට එහෙම වෙන්නේ ඇයි? මේ අවස්ථා තුනේදී අපිට බඩ කිනියන්නේ හින්දා. Right? Then the nostril dilation. During the daytime, you know, or when you are somewhat active, your nostrils become wider. Why? It enables a lot of air to take in to the body, to the lungs. Also to exhale, you know, carbon dioxide produced inside the body. Then the thermoregulation. During the daytime, you know, the temperature is, you know, fluctuating widely, but at night, you know, the body temperature, you know, becomes somewhat low. So the blood circulation, the eye blinking, the pulse rates, you know, hormonal secretions, all are, they show, you know, many cyclical events throughout the day, many. Therefore, all these things are known as ultradian rhythms. So you will understand that there are so many different types of biological rhythms: circadian rhythms, infradian rhythms, and ultradian rhythms. Right? Now, I'm going to show you some graphs showing the differences between these three biological rhythms. Now, as you see, the circadian rhythm, each cyclic event completes within a single day. You see, the first one. Now, in order to complete a menstrual cycle, it takes approximately 28 days. So what you see is that during this 28 days period of time, you know, your LH hormone concentration, your follicle stimulating hormone concentration, as well as the estrogen and progesterone hormone concentrations, you know, vary. But in order to, you know, complete this total variation, it takes 28, more than 1 day. So therefore, the menstrual cycle is an infradian rhythm. Again, in the next 28 days, the same thing happens, right? When you consider the performance of a person, right? So, you know, we are very much performing within a period of 90 minutes, but then gradually we become exhausted, say about 20 minutes, and during this time we become somewhat less active, and we become active again. Then again we become less active and become active again. So this is an ultradian rhythm. So why do the animals, not only the animals I told you, the plants also show biological rhythms. මතකද නිදුකුම්බා එතකොට අතුරුමුරුංගා වගේ දේවල් මොකද වෙන්නේ රාත්‍රී කාලයේදී කොළ ඇකිලෙනවානේ. But as the, you know, day approaches, the කොළ අවදි වෙනවා නේද? රාත්‍රී නිදා ගන්නවා කොළ දවල්ට අවදි වෙනවා. ඉතින් ඒවත් එක circadian rhythm එක. හරිද? දැන් therefore, I want to tell you that not only the animals but also the plants show the biological rhythm. Now, what is the importance? What are the advantages of biological rhythms? Let's learn about this. You see, the biological rhythms are often, very often, they are synchronized with daylight pattern, or monthly patterns, or annual pattern. Therefore, these rhythms allow an animal to harmonize and adjust successfully with its environment. Now, for example, birds who live in colder countries, they migrate to warmer countries in the world during the winter time. Therefore, they can avoid the cold temperature extremes. And as the summer approaches to those countries, they migrate back. Therefore, they can adjust themselves successfully with their environment. Simply means they remain without being killed. Then they can anticipate, because of these biological rhythms, they can anticipate periodic environmental changes. Why? To maximize feeding time, also to avoid predators and avoid competition. Anticipate and prepare for periodic environmental extremes, winter, drought, etc. This can be a trigger for migration. Now, all animals migrate. Now, for example, bears who are living in those colder countries, they do not migrate. Instead, they sleep continuously for a long period of time, say about 3 months during the winter, right? That's what you call hibernation, right? But before hibernating, what the bears do is that they eat a lot. They become fat. So while they are sleeping, they don't have to eat. So they know what's been going on in advance, because that is how they are adapted. So they eat well and then prepare for the environmental change that will be occurring in the near future, right? Then also time of mating with physiological readiness or synchronizing mating times. So those are the advantages of biological rhythms. So simply speaking, all these things say that a biological rhythm saves the animal in its environment successfully, right? ඒක තමයි අපි හැදිලා තියෙන විදිහ. අපේ behaviors හැදිලා තියෙන්නේ ඔය විදිහට තමයි. So, with this understanding, I will explain to you about bird migration. It's bird migration. Now, what is bird migration? Now, I'm in these two photographs. I'm showing you, birds migrating. ඔයගොල්ලෝ migrate කරනවා කියලා පෙන්නන්නේ අහසේ පියාඹන එක තමයි පෙන්නන්නේ. හැබැයි මේක මේ migrate කරන රුල්ලන්ගේ photographs ටික. මෙහෙම නෙමෙයි. ලක්ෂ ගාණක් එක දිගට migrate කරනවා එක සැරේ. මුළු අහසම නිකන් කළුවට වගේ වෙනවා migrate කරන වෙලාවවලදී. Now, in this modified preparation in here, but I am showing you a bird migrating, flying from the northern side of the world to a southern side. In this side, the same bird, flies back to the home area. It's northern home area, right? Now, this northern home area is usually the place where they breed. ඇත්තම මේක තමයි මේගොල්ලන්ගේ නිවහන. මේ winter එක එනකොට, ඒ කියන්නේ සීත කාලේ එනකොට මේ කුරුල්ලෝ රස්නේ පැටි හොයාගෙන යනවා. ආපහු මේ පැත්තට රස්නේ කාලේ ආවා. මේ කියන්නේ සම කාලේ ආවම මේ අය ආපහු පියාඹගෙන යනවා ඒ පැත්තට. ගිහිල්ලා බිත්තර දානවා ඒ සම කාලේ. ඊළඟ winter එකේදී මේගොල්ලෝ ආයෙත් සැරයක් චුටි පැටවුවම ඔක්කොලමත් එක්කලා මේ පැත්තට යනවා. ආපහු මේ පැත්තට සම ලඟ වෙනකොට මේගොල්ලෝ ආපහු. So just because they fly to the warmer areas, they don't breed in here. This is their breeding ground. So the northern area is their breeding ground. The southern countries, to where they migrate during the winter season in their breeding ground is really the non-breeding ground. So they do this annually, and they migrate along, designated routes. Now, considering all these things, we can give a definition. Bird migration is the annual periodic round trips undertaken by birds between the northern breeding and southern non-breeding grounds along a designated flyway. Now, this is the best definition we can give for bird migration. Bird migration is the annual periodic round trips undertaken by birds between the northern breeding and southern non-breeding grounds along a designated flyway. Excuse me, chuttakata. I'm back. Okay, I'm going to show you some famous bird migration examples. Now, the first one, Canadian geese. Now, this is a Canadian geese. Now, they usually can be found in the northern part of the North America, that is in Canada. But annually, they migrate to the warmer southern part of the North America, somewhere in Mexico, maybe at the Mexico. Right? Now, the one-way distance is about 3,000 kilometers from here to here. Ekulu ආපහු කිලෝමීටර 3000ක් ගෙවගෙන මේ පැත්තට සමය කෙනෙකුට මේ පැත්තට ආපහු යන්න දෙනවා. Right? Once I told you about movie Fly Away Home. මතකද ඒක මං කිව්වා? බුද්ධිම.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's about these Canadian geese, right? If you're fancy of watching that movie again, you are very welcome to do. You will learn more about migration, right? And then the second example, I have selected the second example from our own country. Now we have some visitors, birds, known as the greater flamingos, Siakaria. Me greater flamingo කෙනෙක් මතක දැන් අවුරුදු මම කීපයකට කලින් තමයි මේ සත්වෝද්‍යානයේ ටිකේ දෙහිවල ඒක ඇතුල් වෙන දොරටුව ළඟම තියෙන ලොකු ගහක් ඔන්න ඔය ගහ ළඟ ඉන්නවා මේ සියක්කාරය. රතු කකුල් තියෙන මසක් කැතයි මේ කුරුල්ල ඇත්තට. හරි. සියක්කාරය. Now the country of origin or the region of the world of their origin is Eastern and Western Europe. Now, for example, Germany, France, Denmark, etc. Now, when the winter approaches to those countries, they begin to migrate, and eventually they come into warmer countries like Sri Lanka. Not only Sri Lanka, many other countries in the South Asian region they come. Now, in this case, these Siakaria, the greater flamingos, can be widely seen in Bundala Park, right, from November to April each year. The third example, the black-headed seagull. You learned about these seagulls earlier when we were talking about the fixed accent patterns, don't you? Now, I told you they are again a migratory species. So they show all those, fixed accent pattern rituals after they come back from their wintering homes. Now, in the winter, what they do is that they fly to warmer Central African region. Somewhere in here. Hari, me පැත්තට එනවා. ඊපස්සේ ආයෙත් සැරයක්. මේ පැත්තට සම එනකොට මේගොල්ලෝ යනවා. පොඩි ප්‍රශ්නයක් එන්නත් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට. How do they know that the summer approaches in here? මොකද ඒගොල්ලෝ මෙහෙනේ ඉන්නේ. මේක පැත්තට සමයක ඉන්නේ කොහොමද කියලා නැත්නම් ග්‍රීෂ්ම කාලේ එනවා කියලා කොහොමද දන්නේ? පොඩි ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා නේද? And that is actually their biological clock. එහෙම තමයි ඒගොල්ලෝ ටියුන් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ අවුරුදු මිලියන් ගණනක් තිස්සේ. Now another famous example, Arctic tern. It's a small bird, right? You know, it flies from the Greenland here to Antarctica. You know, the distance from here, the flight distance is about 16,000 kilometers one way. 16,000. Right? දැන් මේ හැතැම්ම කිලෝමීටර් 16,000 ගෙවාගෙන මේ කට්ටිය මෙහෙට ෆ්ලයි කරනකොට මේකට ටික කාලයක් යනවා. එතකොට දැන් මේ වින්ටර් එක නිසානේ මේගොල්ලෝ ෆ්ලයි කරන්නේ මේ පැත්තට. හැබැයි මේකට මාස 6ක් විතර යනවා. අනේ එතකොට මේ පැත්තේ වින්ටර්. නේද? උන් ආපහු පියාඹගෙන යනවා සම එකක් ගාන. එතකොට ඒ පැත්තේ වින්ටර්. මේ කියන්නේ මේගොල්ලෝ they are totally a kind of a migratory species, right? පවුනේ දෙ කුරුල්ලෝ. Arctic terns. Now, what are the factors that influence migration? There are three major factors. Number one, changes in the photoperiod and temperature. For example, in winter, in their home country, say Canada, England, France, Denmark, Germany, you know, in winter, you know, it is very cold. Sometimes the temperature drops to minus values, minus centigrades. And also in winter, the photoperiod is very low. දවල් කාලේ තියෙන වෙලාව හරි අඩුයි රෑ කාලේ වැඩි. So the changes in the photoperiod and the temperature is a major migratory. And then the innate and genetic factors. That is to say, that is how they are tuned, biological clocks. Thirdly, there are birds who have migrated earlier. So as this, the photoperiod and the temperature drops, they become restless. They become restless and they make, you know, cries, bird cries, to which other birds who have not migrated yet, they also become stimulated, so they all migrate. So those are the three major factors that influence bird migrations. So why do these birds migrate? That is something we should understand. It's a behavioral pattern. Now I am showing you, look at these two upper photographs. Now, the same place, you see the same place, in winter, in summer, same place, එකම ස්ථානේ, ශීත කාලෙදී සහ ග්‍රීෂ්ම කාලෙදී ගත photographs දෙකක් තමයි මේ තියෙන්නේ, එකම ස්ථානේ. You see here, these whitish things are actually snow. දැන්ටම තේරුම් ගන්න centigrade බිඳුවයි එහෙමනම්. ඕ ඊට අඩු. හරි? No, in this during the summer, the temperature is very, very low. Number one. So the food production in the trees become low. So food is scarce. Fruits are not abundant. Water is mostly frozen. You know, the birds drink water, but they cannot drink ice. Right? Water is mostly frozen. Also, the days are shorter. Photoperiod කියන එක අඩුයි දිවා කාලේ තියෙන කාලේ. එතකොට මේගොල්ලන්ට කැම හොයාගන්න කොහොමද අඩුවෙන් තියෙන කැම කොහොම හරි හොයාගන්න තියෙන කාලයක් අඩුයි. Therefore they have less time to feed. Therefore the winter is not a suitable time for them to live. Okay, there is another thing I want to tell you. That is the temperature condition of the birds. Then මේ බලන්න ඔයගලන්ට පේනවා මම කුරුල්ලෙක් අඳිනවා. Okay, now this is a bird. අසරණේ ගම් පාට කුරුල්ලෙක්. Do you know the average body temperature of a bird? Now our average body temperature in centigrades, can anyone of you tell me our average body temperature? Hello, hello.
37.
Yeah, 37. But when you consider the birds, it is 44 degrees centigrade. You also know that the birds are, warm-blooded animals. Warm-blooded animals. Then during the winter, the outside temperature, let's assume it is 0.0 degrees centigrade. Then, මොකද වෙන්නේ? මෙයා රස්නේ මෙයා අඩුයි. There is a big temperature gradient between the body and the outside environment. Therefore, there is a constant loss of body heat from the bird. But they are warm-blooded animals. That is to say that they have to maintain the body temperature at this level, 44 degrees centigrade. Therefore, in order to do that, they have to increase the metabolic activities, the rate of metabolic activities, right? So in order to increase the rate of metabolic activities, they need food. But the problem is food is scarce. They don't have any other option other than avoiding this cold place and then move into a warmer place. Therefore, they migrate. Simple reason, right? So therefore, they migrate. They migrate. Now, as the summer approaches to the same area, they know it. They know it internally, right? So what they do is that they migrate. Why? Now here the temperature is favorable, very good. And මේ ගස් එහෙම දැන් අර සීත කාලෙන් අවදි වෙලා ඉන්නේ. So they become happy. The trees become happy. There are lots of flowers. Means there are lots of fruits to eat, right? Other, the animals who have been hiding inside the soil, they become active, come to the surface. So the place now becomes so good. There are lots of food to eat. Also, the water is in liquid state. It's not a solid anymore. Now the days are longer. සමහරවිට ඔයාලා දන්නවද මේ සමහර කාලෙදී ඉර නගින්නේ ඉර එළිය උදේ 4ට විතර හොඳට එළිය තියෙනවා. රාත්‍රී 10 විතර වෙනකන් එළිය තියෙනවා. So the photo period is longer. The days are longer. Therefore, they have more time to feed. Right? Compared to the warmer areas in the in these northern parts of the world, the species diversity is low. මේක ඔයගලන්ට කියලා දීලා ඇති අර සූජියෝග්‍රැෆි යටතේදී මිස්ටර් සුදේශ් මේ northern උතුරු අර්ධකරයේ තියෙන රටවල් වල මේ පැත්ත රටවල් වල species diversity විශේෂ විවිධත්වයේ සාපේක්ෂව අඩුයි ධර්ම කලාපික රටවල් වලට වඩා. So low species diversity means less competition for food, less predation, and also therefore this place now becomes excellent for breeding. So they sense it while they are in here, though therefore they fly. That's the proximate reason for the birds to migrate. So what are the advantages? Now, what are the advantages? Because they migrate to warmer countries, they can avoid the low temperatures, they can avoid the food scarcity and water scarcities during this harsh winter, right? In the summer, if they migrate back, these birds can exploit the food that becomes, abundant, during the summer under low competition and low predatory pressure. So they breed. Therefore, quickly their population size can be increased. So that is the advantage given to the bird by migration. But migration is not always advantage. There are disadvantages as well. Some of these disadvantages are increased deaths. So deaths can occur during migration due to various reasons. Number one, adverse weather fluctuations. Now, for example, storms ආසනේ පියාඹන්නේ. ඉතින් උනාටු හරි විදුලි කෙටි අරක මේක හැම දෙයක්ම බහුලයි වාත කැළඹිලි. Weather fluctuations. So the birds cannot really resist those things. Therefore, most of them die. Another reason is human and animal predation. Now, for example, in the United States of America, annually 100 million waterfowls migrate to the southern area. From them, it has been estimated that only 40 million go back. But what happened to that 60 million birds? Those 6 million birds were mostly eaten by people. Also, they become prey to other predatory animals. And then also they die due to loss of stopover sites. Right? Now, usually the stopover sites, time to time, they have to stop to rest. Those resting places are usually the wetlands, from where they can, find water as well as food. But nowadays, the humans, what we do is that we reclaim these wetlands for our own purposes. Therefore, the number of wetlands, the global wetlands, are gradually being declined. And this is to say that the birds find it's really difficult to find sufficient wetlands. Therefore, they die. And then, they have to spend a lot of energy to fly. That is to say that the flight is an energetic thing. So they become quite exhausted. And then because of the exhaustion, some birds die. Then they don't get enough time to sleep. Like us, birds also sleep, right? So, when they migrate, when they fly, say, for about many thousand kilometers, they don't get enough sleep. Again, that is a disadvantage, right? So now I'm showing you some photographs of human predation. But you see in this photograph, two hunters, they are shooting the flying or migrating birds. In this one, actually, these are birds. See, the birds are big. These three people have killed all these birds. Now, this one, wild geese. පව් නේද මේ කට්ටිය. මේ ට්‍රක් එකක් පුරවලා කුරුල්ල වෙඩි තියාගෙන යනවා. That's in Brinkley, Arizona. Paradise Wings Hunting Lodge. Now, hunting is permitted there. See here in this photograph, two hunters and a hunting dog, commonly a Labrador, with the hunted birds. And many birds die due to aircraft accidents. Now, what you see in this photograph, this aircraft meets a flock of migrating birds. Right? Now, this one, another extremely dangerous thing to the plane, actually. Right? Now, this plane you see is being surrounded by hundreds of birds. Right? Now, you see, a plane usually flies at a speed of, generally, 600, 700 miles per hour. Then, මේක ඉස්සරහට මේ ප්ලේන් එක ඉස්සරහට මේ චූටි කුරුල්ලෙක් වැදුනත් මේ ඔගොල්ලෝ දැන් ගම්මිතාවේ කියන එකේ මහලා තියෙන මොමන්ටම් කියන එක නේ දැන් ඇති කරන ඉම්පැක්ට් එක මේ චූටි කුරුල්ලා චූටි නට්ගේ ස්කන්ධයමගෙන් පුංචි ස්කන්ධයෙන් ඇති කරන ඉම්පැක්ට් එක හරිම විශාලයි. Because of this, the damages done to the planes, aircrafts are massive. You see here the snout of this aircraft has been crushed You see the windshield of this aircraft has been damaged. You see this next photograph. Again here, a bird, right? Now this aircraft has been hit by this bird. So the nose is crushed, a helicopter, right? See the damage again. Now, one famous thing happened in Hudson River, United States, 2009. A plane with a flight number, US Airways, flight number 1549, crashed with, migratory birds, and the plane, crashed into the Hudson River. None died. No one died. The captain at that time was Chesley Sullenberg. Now, there is a famous film, ZOOL. Ari lassana film ekak balanna. I have watched this 2 times. Have you watched this film, ZOOL?
No, sir.
No? Bala balanna hari lassana me film ek. Buddhima, have you?
No, sir.
No. Balanna මේකේ තියෙන hari lassana film එකක්. It's a family kind of film, family film. You can watch it with your parents if you are interested, right? The actor is Tom Hanks, one of the very popular United States actor. Now, these are actual 5 photographs of that particular incident. Now, you see this one. Now, this Boeing plane, British Airways, is being surrounded by a group of migrating birds. Then, මේ කුරුල්ලෝ මේ එන්ජින් එකක් අස්සට ගියොත් එහෙම හිතන්න පුළුවන් වෙන ඩැමේජ් එක ප්ලේන් එකක් ඩොලර් මිලියන් ගාණක් වටිනවා ඒක නෙමෙයි මේක ඇතුලේ ඉන්න මගියෝ ප්ලේන් එක මකට කඩා වැටුනොත් එහෙම you cannot really imagine you can imagine the damage that happens. Okay, now I told you at the in the definition that birds fly along designated flyways. Now, in this diagrammatic representation, I am showing you those designated flyways. Now, there are so many designated, flyways, but there are 4 major global migratory routes. A loka sitiyamaka mangi 4 ඇඳලා තියෙනවා. හරිද? දැන් මේ කොළ පාටින් ඇඳලා තියෙන මේ migratory route that connects the North America and the South America. Now, this is the migratory route. Now, this is what you call the American flyway. Now, there is another one shown in purple color, Europe and Africa. ඒකට අපි කියනවා African Eurasian flyway. මේවා මතක තියාගන්න මේවා ඇවිල්ලා standard නම් ඔයගලන්ට ඕන විදිහට මේ නම් වෙනස් කරන්න බෑ. Now, there is another flyway shown in black and yellow, and it connects the North Asian region, Russia, Siberia, etc., with the southern part, India, Sri Lanka, etc. And that is what you call the Central Asian flyway. And there is another global flyway where the Northern Asian region is connected to the East Asian countries and Australia, Indonesia, Java, Borneo, Sumatra, etc. So that is what you call the East Asian, Australasian flyway. මේවට අමතරව තව flyways තියෙන මම මේ ඔයගලන්ට කියන්නේ global flyways, major flyways. There are 4 flyways. Now, usually, then balanda me flyway එකක් ගත්තොත් මේ cross ocean තියනවාද? මේ සමුද්‍රය හරහා මේ මොකද්ද මේ ocean එක කියන්නේ? Anyone, if you tell me this one, what is this ocean?
Atlantic Ocean.
That is the Atlantic Ocean. You see the distance from the western end to the eastern end, that is somewhere about 7,000 8,000 kilometers, right? But you see there are no migratory route. across the ocean. Also, this part of Africa, this part of Africa is a Sahara region, a desert. Is there a flyway over the desert? Desert you see, there is no. මේ හරිය ගත්තත් මේ උඩ මෙන්න මේ මැද ප්‍රදේශයේ ඇත්තම හිමාලය region. But you don't see a flyway over that big mountain. හරි. එහෙම එකක් තියෙනවා. මෙන්න මේ හරිය තමයි හිමාලය මේ පැත්තට නිකම් විහිදෙනවා. මේ හරිය නෑ ඒක. Now therefore these global migratory routes are set avoiding, cross oceans, mountains, etc. That thing you should understand. හරිනේ. දැන් අපි මම මේකෙන් පෙන්නන්නේ ලංකාවේ තත්ත්වය. ලංකාවට කුරුල්ලෝ එන පාරවල්. Now there are 3 major flyway routes to Sri Lanka. One is called the Western Flyway or Western Route. So birds like Avichya, Indian pitta, and Siakaria come to Sri Lanka along the Western route, mainly along the Western route. Then හොඳට බලන්න ඒක වැටිලා තියෙන්නේ ඉන්දියාවේ මේ coastline එකේදී. මැද හරිය දිගේ නෙමෙයි coastline එකේ. Then there is another route, Eastern route. Birds like Asian seagull, they come to Sri Lanka along the Eastern route. And there is another flyway, and that is set over the Andaman Islands. That is what you call the Andaman Flyway or Andaman route. Now this bird, Dampili hudua, right, black cap kingfisher, comes to Sri Lanka along this flyway. වරදොල වටහන් ගන්න එපා. ඔයගොල්ලෝ මේ කුරුළු 3 දෙනා 4 දෙනා විතරයි එන්නේ කියලා. අනික් කට්ටියත් එනවා. මම මේ ඔයගොල්ලන්ට උදාහරණයක් විතරයි කියන්නේ. There are many other birds come to Sri Lanka along these migratory routes. But then you got to understand here, now Andaman is a group of islands, right? It's a kind of a resting place. Now this eastern route again sit along the coast of India, eastern coast. This one, western coast of India, right? So now the question comes, how do the ornithologists are actually the scientists who find who study about the birds, right? Now there are ornithologists who study the migratory patterns of birds. How do they find these migratory routes or the flyways? Now there are so many different interesting methods, right? One method is that they monitor the flight route of bird by tagging them, right? Now the tags can be put around the neck. They are known as neck tags. Or sometimes the tag can be attached to the wing, known as wing tags. Or the tag can be attached to the leg, known as leg flaps. Or sometimes a radio transmitter can be attached to the bird. Now these are quite expensive. If you have a radio transmitter, then the transmitter, it has some batteries. Now the transmitter emits signals. So there are people on ground on several areas, so they can receive the messages emitted by the transmitter. So people can monitor the flight route. Now these are the common ways where the birds can be marked in order to find their migratory routes. And there are other extremely expensive methods like radar and satellite tracking, etc. But still people use these things in order to learn about the migratory routes of birds. Now this is what I wanted to tell you. Usually the migratory routes of the birds are set over prominent stopover sites. And these stopover sites are wetlands and marshlands. Why? The wetlands and the marshlands, they are ideal places for birds to rest, to drink water, and also to eat, right? Refueling, eat. දැන් ඔය වෙට්ලන්ඩ් එකක් මාෂ් එකක් ගත්තොත් එහෙම මඩේ ඉන්නවා හරියට පණුවෝ එහෙම. ඒ වගේම මාෂ්ලෑන්ඩ් එකක තියෙනවා ඔය රීඩ්ස් වගේ ගස් වර්ග. ඒවල චූටි ගෙඩි හැදෙනවා. ඒ ගෙඩි කන්න පුළුවන්. දැන් පණුවෝ කියලා කියන්නේ worms. They're extremely nutritious kind of food, lots of proteins, right? So they after they land in the stopover site, what they do is that keep on eating. That is, they they refuel for the next lap of flight. And also the migratory routes are not set over deserts, wide oceans, tall mountains, etc., because those are not the places where the birds can rest, water, and refuel. Right? So now, since birds rest in wetlands and marshlands in migration, there is a world convention. That is what you call the Ramsar Convention. That became effective in from 1975. Right? මේක මෙහෙමයි අත්‍තරම කතන්දරය. මේක මෙහෙම සිංහලෙන් කියන්නේ මගේ ලේසියට ඔයගොල්ලන්ට තේරුම් ගන්න. දැන් මේ කුරුල්ලෝ ලංකාවට එනවනේ. ලංකාව වගේ රටවල් වලට නේ සීත කාලෙදී. හැබැයි ඒගොල්ලෝ අපේ කුරුල්ලෝද? මට ඔයගොල්ලෝ උත්තර දෙන්න ඕන. Are they our birds? No. Those birds, our countries are not their homes. They just come to our countries, warmer countries, to avoid the winter in their home countries, isn't it? So after the summer approaches to those countries, these birds should fly back to breed. Breed karna sthane thamai enan egulange gedara. Now the scientists there know that during the winter these birds migrate, but unfortunately what happens is that there are some unacceptable things been going on in the warmer countries. For example, people kill them for food. Another one, people reclaim the marshlands. Therefore, those people in the home countries make requests to our people here. Ane karuna karala oyagollanga wagurubin please goda karanne epa. Ape kurullanට වෙඩි තියන්නත් එපා මරන්නත් එපා. ඉතින් ඒගොල්ලෝ අහිංසක සත්තු జాතියක් මේ ඉතින් ඒගොල්ලෝ මේ සීත කාලේ ඉන්න බැරි හින්දානේ එන්නේ. ඉතින් ආපහු කරුණා කරලා එන්න දෙන්න කියලා ඒගොල්ලෝ ඉල්ලීමක් කරනවා. මේ ඉල්ලීම කරන්න ෆෝමලි කරන්න ඕනේ. ඒ නිසා ඉරාන් වල රම්සාර් කියන නගරේ 1971 දී මේ විද්‍යාඥයෝ සෙට් එකක් රැස් වුණා. රැස් වෙලා සම්මුතියක් පිටුවා ගත්තා. ඒ සම්මුතියේදී පිටුවා ගත්තේ විශේෂයෙන්ම මේ උණුසුම් කලාපික රටවල් වල වගුරු බිම් සංරක්ෂණය කරන්න ඕනේ කියන. එන්නේ මේ සම්මුතියට තමයි කියන්නේ රම්සාර් කන්වෙන්ෂන්. පැහැදිලි නේද මේ කතන්දරේ? රම්සාර් කන්වෙන්ෂන්. Now, as of 2022, as of today, we have 7 Ramsar sites, globally accepted, 7 Ramsar sites in Sri Lanka. Those sites are shown in this map of Sri Lanka. You see, all these sites are located in the coastal regions where the wetlands can be found. Right? ඔයගොල්ලෝ බලාගන්න මේ දින මක්මන් මතක තියාගන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. නමුත් ඔයගලන්ගේ දැනුමට තමයි මම මේ information එකක් දීලා තියෙන්නේ. Right. Then I'll tell you the energetics of migration. Flight. තතු සලනවා කියන්නේ හැමතිස්සෙම තතු සලනවා කියලා කියන්නේ it needs a lot of energy. So from time to time they have to refuel. අඩු ශක්තිය නැවත ලබා ගන්න මේ කට්ටියන්ට කණ්ඩ වෙනවා නැවත. එහෙනම් stop over sites තිබුණේනේ. So before migration starts, what these birds do, migratory birds do, is that they eat a lot and then they become fat. You see, now that is clearly shown in these statistics. Non-migratory birds, they are not fat. Means there is a lesser amount of, stored food in their body. Short distance migrants, 13 to 25% of body fat, more than the non-migrants. But when you consider the long distance migrants, like, the wild geese, 50% of the body is fat. ඔයාලා දන්නවනේ ෆැට් කියලා කියන්නේ ශක්තිය ගබඩා කරන්න පුළුවන් හොඳම එක. කාබෝහයිඩ්‍රේට්ස් නෙමෙයි. ප්‍රෝටීනත් නෙමෙයි. Fat. So before migration, they eat a lot. That is during the summer. There is a lot of food, right? So they eat a lot and store that food in their fat tissues. Because they know within a very short period of time, they have to migrate. So they become fat, right? So that's why I told you these fat deposits are, used during flight. So they have to, refuel again and again and again. Now, another question, a very interesting question. How do these birds, migratory birds, find the migratory route? කුරුල්ලෙක් කියන්නේ චූටි එකෙක්නේ. දැන් මේකෙක් හැතැම්ම 3500 4000ක් විතර කිලෝමීටර උච්චර දුර ගමන එකම පාරේ යනවා එනවා. කොහොමද ඒක කරන්නේ? Now this is what you call navigation. Now in modern cars, for example, right, we have GPS technique. එහෙම එක තියෙනවා නේද? මේ කාර් වල දැන් ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ තාත්තා එමේ ලෝන කාර් එකේ මේ GPS තියෙනවා. අපේ ෆෝන් එකේ GPS තියෙනවා, right? We can locate any person anytime. So navigation is not at all a problem for us. But for birds, they don't have these kind of GPS mechanisms, right? But how do they navigate? How did they find the route? Now the route finding is both innate and learned. දැන් මේ වචන මම කියලා දෙන්නේ ඈ. innate කියන වචනේ ඔයගොල්ලෝ දන්නවා දැන්. learn කියන එකක් දන්නවා, right? Now in order to find the route, they use major orientation cues. ඒ කියන්නේ දිශාව විෂයාකාරව වටහා ගැනීම සඳහා පරිසරයේ තියෙන තත්ත්ව මේකට පාවිච්චි කරනවා. පළවෙනි එක තමයි හිරු රටාව. That is what you call the solar compass. Right? Tharu රටාව, stellar compass, geomagnetic field of the earth. මම මේක ඊයේ ලෙක්චර් එකේදී කියවනේ මේ જાති කුරුල්ලන්ගේ හොටේ තියෙනවා කියලා metals. එතකොට මේ හොට තමයි මේ geomagnetic field එක අල්ලගන්න පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ විශේෂයෙන්ම migratory birds ලගේ මේ හොටේ තියෙන අර ලෝහ ප්‍රමාණය අංශු ප්‍රමාණය වැඩි. හරි. Then olfaction, smells, environmental smells, and then the prominent landmarks, like for example rivers, narrow straits. උතුරු අර්ධද්වීපයේ ලංකාවේ දකුණු අර්ධද්වීපයේ තියා කරන එලිෆන්ට් පාස් කියලා එකක් තියෙනවා. ඒක ස්ට්‍රේට් එකක් අන්න ඒ වගේ තිබුණ. හරි. මේ වගේ දේවල් තමයි මේගොල්ලෝ ප්‍රොමිනන්ට් ලෑන්ඩ්මාර්ක්ස් විදියට ඒගොල්ලෝ පාවිච්චි කරනවා නැවිගේෂන් cues විදියට. හරිද? I think that is all I have to tell you about the bird migration and animal rhythm. Now this one, bird migration, is a periodic animal rhythm. It's a behavioral animal rhythm. I think that this lecture, I think you will find very interesting.